Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dysfunctional Fitness Podcast. You're joined by myself, Matthew Hosking, and of course, Ben Bodycom. We are going to break down 23.2, give our thoughts and reaction to the announcement that was about an hour ago. And then at the end, we'll just do a little recap of 23.1 as well for those who are interested in that. Right, so Benjamin, 23.2. In the books, it is a 15-minute AMRAP of 5 burpee pull-ups and 10 shuttle runs, but every round you add another 5 burpee pull-ups. Then at the 15-minute mark, we go into a 5-minute window where you have to find a 1-rep max thruster. What are your thoughts?
I love it as a workout. I think it's to go a couple of steps back. Obviously, the Open last year was Dave Castro's last Open that he programmed. This year is Boz's first year of programming, and he's definitely being an OG CrossFitter with how he's programming this stuff. We're not seeing a clean, we're not seeing a snatch, we're not seeing an Olympic lift. Instead, we're seeing the thruster, a brute force movement that I'm sure men with limited overhead mobility are screaming with happiness at their ability to strict press to 120 kilos overhead after doing a front squat. But joking aside, coming back to the first bit, I really like the burpee pull-up. I like the shuttle runs. I have views on how it'll be for gyms logistically. But
Yeah, that's exactly what thoughts we had when it was announced.
Yeah, so we got exposed to shuttle runs for the first time in quarterfinals last year. Within our space at BFG, the old space that we had was quite big, and even then, that was still a struggle to run multiple heats at the same time. You got people constantly crossing over each other, people running into each other, and it can be a little bit of a logistical nightmare. The way that CrossFit have now specified the floor plan as well isn't ideal. But I think from what I've seen of 23.1 as well, it's not like they're penalising people for not following the floor plan exactly right. You know, your rings and your rig don't have to be at that exact point. So I think, you know, the logistics aside, I think it's a great workout. I think it's a great test. We've just seen Vellner and Krennikov go through it and push really hard and show that there's not going to be a huge amount of separation for the elites at the top. So I'm really interested to see who's going to be able to really be able to put up a top score on both of these workouts.
Mm-hmm. You say not much separation between the elites at the top. There was not much separation between the amateur heat. Kathleen Staunton and Joe Trello, only 1 rep separated them in part A. So I think it's not much separation all around. But yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. I think he went out a little hot, and she caught
who?
Joe Trello, the amateur guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken the splits for him when I was watching it, and to be fair, it was similar with Roman and Vellner. I'll take the splits for Vellner when we get into it, but they actually got back to the pull-up bar within like 2 or 3 seconds pretty much every round. I think she moved the burpee pull-ups a bit faster than him. So every time I think he had a slight lead, and then she would catch him up slightly on the pull-ups, and they finished 1 rep within each other. So I think it was pretty close. But yeah, like my view on the workout, I think it's really good. As Boz said, he gave like a little spiel, which I don't think they've ever done before, actually talking about why they designed this workout. But after the announcement, then he said, I think it's the first ever workout that is monostructural and a gymnastics couplet they've ever done. Which is quite cool. This must be the workout when he teased, I can't remember where it was from, but saying that this year there'll be a movement or two that aren't new to CrossFit, but will be new to the Open. So I assume this must be it with the burpee pull-ups and the shuttle runs. I mean, we can wait to see what happens next week as well, because I think we both think there's still going to be a wall involved with either hands and push-ups or maybe even wall-facing hands and push-ups or something of that sort. But yeah, I really like it. Just pure capacity. For me, this is like my definition of CrossFit, of like pure capacity mixed with who's still strong when you're breathing hard. and put up a big weight. So yeah, I think it's close to a perfect. And for an open workout, 2 scores I think is really good in this format of the 3 weeks. More scoring opportunities, still tests again, 2 wide ranges of fitness. I think it's almost perfect for this style. But no negatives with it. Really like it. Only issue is obviously we get into it. Obviously movement standards might be a bit iffy, but I mean that's the same with most CrossFit workouts. So it is what it is. But yeah, as a programming front of the movements, the time domain, and that heavy lift, I think it's all 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I think like to touch on that, the scaled workout for this, I don't know if you'll look. It's just burpees instead of burpees to a 6-inch lunge or burpees to a bar. Instead of the burpee pull-up, that's a horrible workout in and of itself. I cannot imagine I think I'd much rather do the RX version of this workout than I would do the scaled version of this, because that's
scaled's just touching the bar, right?
Yeah,
I think so basically just a burpee and just touch the bar. Yeah, so I mean, as you said, it could even be worse, because the cycle speed of the burpees going to be even faster, which is get your heart rate even more jacked. But yeah, I think it's really good. I think it depends who you speak to. Obviously we we're speaking the last week and tossing around workout ideas. I think we came to a conclusion where I thought it was going to be some version of handstand push-ups. I thought sumo deadlift high pulls were going to be the new movement, just because it's in the foundational 9 movements of CrossFit, in the level 1, all that jazz. In the judges course, hasn't come up in the open. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. So I thought it would be some combo of that with handstand push-ups and maybe a jump rope. And I did think it'd probably be a 2-parter into a max lift, but I was leaning towards a snatch because again, we haven't seen that in a while. So I sort of got that 2-parter right, but then you gave a good shout with the shuttle runs and the burpees.
And I think we are seeing, like, something I referenced last week was us talking about the this separation piece that we're now getting, where it's, you're not, well, what I originally said was that you're not going to get much bottlenecking. I think unfortunately you're going to get a lot of bottlenecking in this. I haven't seen is the tie break for Part A your score on Part B? Because I know they've done that before.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say one. There is. I'm reading it right here. There is no tie break for 23.2A. If athletes tie on the weight lifted in 23.2B, their score on 23.2A will be used as their tie break. The athlete with more reps completed on 23.2A will win. Yeah, so there's a tie break on the lift, but not on 23.2A.
Right. So they think there's going to be enough separation on 2A.
Yeah, which I mean sort of makes sense, to be fair, because that's seconds, and then in the lift, people usually group around set numbers. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of ties at for the Americans, 225, and then 245, 275, or a bit lower, 185, 155, all those classic numbers, because everyone has a set number. It's just, and lifting's way more psychological around numbers. So yeah, I'm not too surprised by that. But yeah. Right, should we get into it?
Should we look at the how it went down between Vellner and Krennikov, and then we'll look at how they strategized it a little bit, and then dive into what our recommendations are for strategizing it for the people who listen to the podcast.
I've got both. So I've got the amateurs heat splits as well. So that's a bit more. I think, that would be more relatable to the people listening to this. But yeah, we'll jump in with the pros first, and then if you're really keen about hearing strategy for yourselves, then just wait for the next bit, and we can use the amateur heat as a baseline. We'll get into the pro announcement then. So obviously we had Vellner versus Roman, 2 of the best in the world. Obviously Roman came second last year, and Vellner, I believe, came 6th at the games, something like that, or 5th.
Sixth.
Yeah. So obviously 2 very fit individuals going head to head. Obviously over the last week in the open, Roman took first, maybe a bit of controversy, depends if you believe in the rule book or not. And Vellner, I think, actually took 3rd. People keep saying, Roman stole the win from Vellner, but I think Vellner actually came 3rd because I think Grayshaber beat him on the tie break. So if anything actually happens, Cole Greyshaver won the workout and he's not even getting a mention. So shout out Cole Greyshaver. Right, so we'll get into it. So round one, these splits are basically based off Vellner. And I got Roman at the end, as I saw he basically took the lead. So round one, Vellner did in 120. So that's your 5 burpee pull-ups into your 10 shutter runs. Remember, 10 shutter runs is actually 20 lengths of 25 foot. Then in round two, Vellner was done in 3 minutes. So that was a 140 in terms of increased time on the next interval. That makes sense. So again, holding a decent pace, not a massive drop off from round one. Round three, he was done in 5:13. Round 7, he was done in 7:54, just under 8 minutes. Round 5, 11:15. And round 6, this is Roman, finished in 14:47 and then just sneaked in 3 burpee pull-ups there. The one interesting with the splits is that I just wanted to work out like the extra increase per round, because obviously the extra 5 burpee pull-ups is going to add a bit of time regardless. But if you look at Vellner's splits, he only went up in from round 1 to round 2 was 20 seconds, round 2 to round 3 was 33 seconds, round 3 to round 4 was 29 seconds. Round 5 was 40 seconds, and then round 6 was only 11. So obviously, that's round 6. That's the last one. That's when you pick up the pace again. So it showed for them the extra 5 burpee pull-ups was pretty much adding between 4 to, well, the slowest was 40. So that's 8, between 4 to 8 seconds. So if you just average it out, we'll just stick around 6 seconds per burpee pull-up. So again, that's a very fast pace. When you're warming up, try to hold a burpee pull-up every 6 seconds, and that's what they're pretty much doing across the whole workout. Plus the shutter runs. And again, the shutter run pace were all around basically 110 to 120 throughout the whole workout. So keep that in mind. It's very fast. So again, when you're warming up, you might run, if you do your 10 shutter runs in a warm-up and you do it in 1 minute, that might be faster than what they did. Remember, now you've got to sustain that for 15 minutes straight. So I would maybe temper your expectations. And then into the lift, we had Roman hit a 295 pounds thruster, which I believe is, what's that, about 130?
I think it's 133.
130, close to 135-ish. And Vellner hit 270, which is, what's that, 122-ish?
Yes.
kg. Still pretty 2 big numbers. Very impressive under that fatigue as well, as you saw. And for people who watched the announcement, Vellner was constantly shaking out his legs in the background. Took a knee multiple times. Very impressive. I
think it was similar for him to the games workout, the shuttle sprint workout, where we saw him failing a lot of jerks because his legs were so fatigued. So I think that might be a potential weakness on his part, running straight into lifting, which is why you saw that sort of fairly big disparity between the 2 numbers.
Yeah, I did have those exact thoughts when I was watching. When I was saying to you, when it was like 6 minutes in, and he looked like he was just like blowing through a straw, had like no lungs left. I was like, oh no, it's like flashbacks to that shuttle to overhead from the games this past year. He's like blown up. He's gonna get to the barbell. He's gonna be lucky to thrust more than like 225.
Then he opened with 230. I was like, come on.
Yeah. Maybe that was the reason. Redemption.
Yeah.
Because for the
an attempt at redemption. Whereas
for those who to be
sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say contrast to the shuttle to overhead. For those who didn't watch it, that's pretty much where Vellner lost the games last year. Just when he just had a horrendous performance on the jerks.
The workout is where he lost the games last year.
It was though. And the best part is the camera work. You just see the camera zooming out, and next to him is Ricky Garrard just repping them out like they're nothing.
Yeah.
Expert trolling by the cameraman. I'll give some context also for the pace of those burpee pull-ups. So in round 6, so the 30 burpee pull-ups, Roman did them in 220. So have an idea of that. That's about 13-ish a minute pace.
Yeah.
Which is pretty solid. But remember, 13-minute pace is quick maths. About 4 seconds ish. That was near the last round, so he obviously kept a slightly faster pace. But still, just keep that in mind. That was elite level pace. So if you're warming up thinking, oh, holding these every 5 seconds feels easy, yeah, just don't. Just don't do that. Trust me. It's like the Toes bar.
And see, see
what happens. Yeah. It was like the Toes bar last week. So many members trying to convince them, like, I know you're going to feel fine coming off the rower. I know it's going to feel fine to do 10 in a row, but don't. Just do 5, even 3, and just do 5s or 3s on the Toes bar.
Yeah, coming off the rower, jumping up, doing 20 unbroken toes to bar, and then dropping off a cliff is not something that's advisable. I'd probably say. And similar to this, like you want to make sure that it's a 15-minute workout. It's not a workout that is. It's a workout that can be lost in the first 5 minutes by holding on to those paces that you're talking about. I mean, I think for me, I'm probably going to try and stick around that sort of 1 every 10 seconds at the start, and maybe try and pick it up towards the end and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking, I got announced and saying, how would you even pace this? And I think still a good pace would be, imagine you're going to do a 4K row time trial, and it's just that uncomfortable distance where you're basically just going to have to sit just under your threshold for the whole time. Obviously, easier starting out a bit slower than you can, and then building into like a faster pace rather than starting too hot. Because if you start too hot, it's game over. That's a long time to suffer if you've burnt yourself out too quick. So just imagine that feel. So if you've ever done a 5K row, that's a pretty common test in CrossFit. Imagine what you have to do in that type of scenario. It's just that slow, steady grind. And then when you get those like last 2 minutes, you try pick up the pace every 20 to 30 seconds, just lowering your splits. That is the feeling. I'm going to imagine what this is going to feel like. Obviously, different-ish stimuluses with like the push and the pull, but a lot of running. Saying that, a lot of running and turning. I think, I don't know, obviously I didn't hear Vellner or Roman talk about it afterwards, but I know how people's lower backs are going to feel. Looking back to that quarterfinal workout that had the wall balls, the rope climbs, and the shuttle runs, I remember low and back being fairly blown up, and that's just from that turn, the cutting. Quite a lot of that, so that might be something to be careful about.
I think the one sort of technique tip for burpee pull-ups is, number 1, step your burpees. Number 2, alternate legs that you're stepping with. And make sure you're jumping with both legs, not just jumping with the one leg that you're stepping up from. And then try and alternate which hand you're touching for that 3-point touch that you have to get on the shuttle run as well. So come down on one side, and then on the other end of the shuttle run, come down on the other side. And I think if you can do that, you'll try and minimise the localised fatigue that Matthew's talking about there.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been practicing shuttle runs, you should have an idea now of how many stride lengths it takes to do 125-foot segment. And as Ben was saying, with the turn and alternating your hands, again, if you've done enough shuttle runs in your training, you should now have an idea of, same with the burpee, a bar-facing burpee. Ideally, the most efficient way is actually to, if you imagine facing one plate the whole time, and you turn towards that plate, and you step up with the opposite leg, so it stops overworking one side, just keeping it even throughout the workout. That's exactly the same thing with the shuttle run. Pick one side of the room you're always going to turn to face. Yeah, that should work. Yep. And
no, that's perfect. Like that's and that is why you are the coach, and I am not a coach, and I am just an observer.
But yeah, so I mean, that was us just going through the pros' times. So, I mean, their scores are ridiculous, obviously. So, don't feel too down if you've heard those split times and like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to hold those. We'll go into some more realistic splits that I think people listening to this can hold.
So I got the leaderboard out, so I just wanted to have a quick look and see what's going on. And a guy who occasionally trains at our gym has already done it and submitted his score.
Who's that?
James, you know James Stewart?
Oh, yeah.
So he's submitted his score. He got 5 rounds plus 21 burpee pull-ups, which is on the round of the 30 burpee pull-ups, so the 6th round.
Yeah.
That's currently 5th worldwide. So big shout out to him if he's listening.
He needs to screenshot it. You say you got 20. You say you got 21 burpee pull-ups.
Yeah, so 146.
All right, that's 146.
Yeah.
In the round of.
He's a very fit guy. For context, his tie break time on 23.1 was 9:15.
Yeah, that is fast. That's very fast.
Yeah.
How did he do in the first one? Where did he get to?
12 ring muscle ups. I think, like in all honesty, his ring muscle up capacity is probably what let him down. Because he's fit as anything, like absolutely smashed it on the first bit. But I was just looking, and I think like that's you can see the gap there is still, what we're talking about, 9 burpee pull-ups and the shuttle runs that take you up to pretty much where Vellner was. No, Vellner only got 7 shuttle runs. According to official score, I thought he finished it. So yeah, there's still quite a big gap, and I imagine that if we're talking about where you want to be pacing towards for the sort of top end, top 10%, that round of 25 is probably where you want to be aiming for, unless, the round of 30 is probably where you want to be aiming for, unless you've got different thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, James Stewart, so we've got like a good guy to now face off. That, yeah, he's pretty solidly fit, and that's a pretty good score. And again, that'll be, if we're talking about percentiles, I know people have been talking about that for those who are concerned about quarters and all that jazz. Again, looking at his numbers, he's around that, what would you say, anywhere between the 75 to 85-ish percentile. So that is probably going to be likely the same again for this workout. So his score of, what was it, 146? Yeah, that's pretty solid. Again, now, and again, this is low. And if he's got good, as you said, like if his tie break in that first week was very good, and it's just a muscle up capacity holding him back, then capacity wise on all the aerobic front, all that jazz, he's probably got quite a good energy system base. So he might even finish higher in terms of percentile this week. So that score theoretically could even be looking close to a 90% plus percentile. And his weight is not too bad either, 221 pounds, just shy of 100 kg.
Yeah.
Well, basically, 100, it is 100, isn't it? If it's a 2.2 conversion that they use on CrossFit. But yeah, that's very impressive. Again, that lift will probably be easier, I think, 90 plus percentile for the lift.
Think?
100 kg, I think so. I know, like, the thing is, it depends who because who you're imagining, because the BFG boys are all very fit and strong. But you got to think about that average member doing this.
Yeah, very true, very true. I think sometimes you forget how skewed.
Yeah, like that guy in the amateur in the announcement, Joel Treller, he only thrusted 165 pounds, which is basically 75 kg. So I'll keep that in mind. But yeah,
this will be quite similar to what we saw with the complex we had in 2021, was it? Where
after that
workout, where people had aspirations for hitting certain numbers, and then you get there and have that sudden realization of, okay, I cannot hit that number. I think you, like, even in the broadcast, you heard Tommy Marquez talking about, like in 2011, these are the numbers that people were hitting, and I think Roman exceeded that, but I don't think that's, like, using Roman as a yardstick is probably not a good idea for the majority of individuals within the sport, for various reasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, being fresh, are those like Vellner and Krennikov were both thruster more than 315. Like, they'd probably get close to 145. Even maybe 150 might be a bit outrageous. I don't know, but around that if they're fresh. So again, keep that in mind. If your fresh thruster that's a tongue twister. Fresh thruster is literally only about 100 kg. If that, I would again take about 80% of that number after this workout. That'll be pretty solid. 80 classic lifting under fatigue. Obviously, it depends what the workout is, depends what the stimulus is. But if you're getting close to 90% of a 1 rep max of a lift, that is very, very good. if you're in a big hole after a Metcon. So yeah, anything 80 to 9% will be pretty solid.
Yeah, most definitely.
Right, well, we'll look at the amateur splits just because not everyone's Pat Vellner and Roman Krenikov. And by look at things, not everyone's James Stewart because his score's better than these guys' scores. So for the amateur people, we had obviously Kathleen Staunton and Joel Treller. Well, I said at the start, Kathleen got 101 reps and Joel got 102. So they were, I believe, Joel, that was 12 burpee pull-ups into the round of 25. So on their splits, so round one was 155. Compare that to round one with Vellner, who was in 120. So already 35 seconds behind just in round one. Round two was done in 4:30. And for that comparison, it was 3 minutes for Vellner and Krenikov. So again, that's already a minute and a half behind. Then there was a big drop off. Round three was 8:11. Whereas round three for Vellner then was 5:13. Round four, 12:50, almost basically 13 minutes. And then they got capped in that next round. But yeah, so, I mean, paces for them. So again, when I looked at the burpee pull-ups, like the increase per round, so obviously for Vellner and Krenikov, it was about 20 to 30 seconds added per set. And that was basically because of those 5 extra burpee pull-ups. For these, for Joel and Kathleen, it was more about 40 plus. So the first 2 rounds were 40 seconds, then an extra 44 seconds. And that's similar to what you were saying earlier about how your burpee pull-up pace would be closer to that 8 to 10 second pace. And there was a big drop off in the round of 4. It was 100. It was 120 slower minutes wise. So that was a big drop. So that shows again, for that type of fitness level, they might have still gone out too hot, even for their ability, because that's quite a big dramatic drop in pace, basically 3 times slower on those burpee pull-ups. So just again, keep that in mind. These people were going at about 10 seconds a rep on the burpee pull-ups, and even for them, that was too hot of a pace to hold once they got into round 4. But yeah.
Watching the leaderboard live is very, very interesting as we're seeing more and more scores come in. But yeah, I think it's what we talked about earlier about like knowing your pace early on, making sure that you're not losing a huge amount of time. So going a little bit slower in those early rounds means that you don't see the same sort of drop off in pace that you would that those guys saw in the announcement as well.
Yeah. Anything else to cover on that workout? I mean, just overall thoughts, as we said at the start, I think it's a very good workout. It's going to hurt a lot, I think, 50 minutes straight through. And again, like, for your average member, he probably train, 1 hour, 3 or 4 days a week. The concept of pacing might still not be ingrained in them. So I think even if they have listened to this and they're going to try their best, I still think they might go a bit too hot about 4 minutes in and then realize, I've got a very, very long way to go. And the pace might drop dramatically. That's okay. If that does happen, you're one of those people, just mentally, like even for that rest of that round, maybe just basically recoup on your shuttle runs, take it easy, and then reassess where you're at when you get back to the pull-up bar and see if you can get those splits back down again, and then just keep chugging along.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's the hare and the tortoise analogy. Like, start slow and you'll probably do a lot better than somebody who goes, who shoots out the gate really hot. And if you can, control that pace early on, control your heart rate, like you definitely have a much better chance of A, getting a better score on part A, and B, having a better score on part B as well.
But saying that, the one issue with a double score is do you pace part A to the point where you get an even better score on part B, or do you just sell yourself on part A as if part B didn't exist and then just see what you could put up in part B? What would your go-to be?
I think like 5 minutes is a decent-ish amount of time to try and recover. what I think is going to be underestimated is how your legs are going to feel coming off part A. So you're doing the shuttle runs, that jump up, if you're being relatively efficient and not kipping your pull-ups, like that jump up to the bar every single time is going to really start to get quite fatiguing. So I imagine that the thing you're going to miss is that drive on your thruster. So it's a difficult one because it all depends on your capacity as an athlete. If you know you're not fit enough to be able to hold on to the pace in part A, then and you can put a really, really good score up in part B, then swing for the fences. But I think unfortunately if you want a good score in both, in order to do well in the CrossFit Open, you have to have a good score in both, and you have to be fit enough to be able to absolutely smash the first part, and then get 3 solid lifts in part B as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you actually just have to treat part A as if it was a standalone workout, and then this is just from experience of doing qualifiers. You just got, if it's a 2-parter and usually the second parter is a lift, you just got to accept part A, everyone is going to go hot regardless, because you can't pace it to a point where you want to quote unquote recover for the lift and save yourself for it, because you're going to come dead last in like a qualifier, and then it doesn't matter if you do all right on the lift, because that's going to net out to a worse finish overall. So really, when you see a 2-parter like this, the game is who can get the best score on part A, and then who is fit enough to recover to then express the strength they've built up for a heavy lift. So my approach would be treat part A as if it was a standalone test. And as Ben said, 5 minutes is quite a lot of time to recover. So take 1 to 2 minutes of that 5 minutes to get yourself set up. And let's say if you rest 2 minutes, you have 3 minutes left. You could either try go 1 thruster on the minute. So that'll be 3 lifts, maybe 1 every 45 seconds, sneak an extra 1 in there. But I think 3 lifts would be enough. Again, when you're warming up for it, build up to that max. Either just, well, ideally probably just below what you think you're going to hit. Save it for the workout. But yeah, I would honestly go in and just give your best effort on part A. And then this is the thing, when it comes to training, you need to train to a point where you basically build up a strength base that you can just rely on that under any fatigue. So obviously you're not going to hit your true max in this situation, but if you've done enough strength work, you shouldn't be stressing about, a 50% drop off, which then gives you confidence to attack the first one properly, recover, and then go put up a good number in part B. That would be my advice.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, right. Anything else, or do you want to do a little recap of last week?
No, I just think similar to last week, where every ring muscle up was a big separator, every burpee pull up is going to really matter. That last minute, wherever you're at in the workout, you have to push hard in order to sort of make sure that you're putting yourself in the best possible position for the workout as a whole. Because it looks like a lot of the scores that we're already are in that round of 30 burpee pull-ups, and you're already starting to see, every rep is making you're getting people bunched up together on particular reps. So that's just something to look out for and make sure that you're pacing yourself accordingly.
Cool. Right. Should we look at last week a bit? Give our see what went on.
Yeah. So from a European standpoint, top performing European male was Guillaume Briand.
Who was a second?
Second top performing was Georgios Karavis.
Who was third?
Third was Jelle Hoster, who's sitting. I thought he was a master. I take that back. He's 28. Don't know what's going on there. Jelle Hoster in fourth, Victor Hoffer in fifth on Europe, and Jona Koski in sixth.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to go for. There he is.
Yeah, we can stop talking there. I could have gone for on the other side, but yeah, it was Jona Koski.
So Jona, for those who didn't listen to episode 1, I did pick Jona Koski to win in Europe. I mean, it's not job done, but it's 5th, so it's a good start. Still quite a long way to go. But where's your pick? I'm still scrolling. Oh, there he is, 14th. That's all right. You might get burpees and we might not actually get burpees now anymore with the dumbbell snatch and the wall walks. That's awkward. But still these two scores plus week 3, you never know. Might make a good comeback.
I think Catullus will do well this week.
I think he will.
I did actually, Brian Friend, who's a CrossFit analyst, put up a question box of who do you think is going to do well in 23.1. I put Georgios Karavis in, and so I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't make that claim a little bit more publicly, aside from just as someone's random Instagram story question box. But yeah, he did well. I think what's interesting here is that you have the differentiation between someone like Jelle Hoster, who's like 6'2" or 6'1", 6'2", like a big guy who's great on the rower, and contrast that with Victor Hoffer, who's 20 now. Sorry, he's not 19 anymore. A little bit smaller, who's like sort of gymnastics. Like he's very, very good at gymnastics. And you're seeing that difference of somebody who can really push hard on the row, and somebody who's got the gymnastics capacity, and so can push hard there as well. And with that first workout, you've got to see both being represented in the sort of top 10 to 20 across Europe. I'll
tell you what who we actually sort of neglected. Fabian Benito, 7th place, coming off his big win in Dubai. For those who watched, heartbreak for Kowski on his last lunge, little numpty. Just got to look out, silly boy.
That was genuine. With that and Velner at Road, like this whole season was absolutely heartbreaking for the fans of Canadians.
No, I still think the Velner one was way worse. Going from second to first to fourth in the space of 10 reps. That was hard to watch.
But yeah, Fabi had a slightly disappointing semi-finals last year. There was a couple of workouts where there were some issues for him, where I think it was the lift where he wasn't lifting at the right time, and a couple of other things that ended up messing things up. But he was sort of on the outside looking in. But then, he, as you've already referenced, had a great off-season in Dubai, sort of coming out of him and Moritz finally coming out of nowhere to place first and second at Dubai. Which sort of sets them up for a really good season this year. So really interested to see how those guys do.
Yeah. Right, should we look at the women on Europe?
Yes.
Right, don't worry, you can get me back for my pick on this one, because she did not do too good. She was actually in, I think it was in Brian Friend's most disappointing performances list. I think he had a list of 10 athletes. I think Emma McQuaid was one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. She must be, I don't know, she must have been a bit of an issue. I think, firstly, we'll run through the top 10 women from Europe. Laura Horvath, coming back from CrossFit, misloading her bar, in first. Jacqueline Dahlstrom in second, actually tied.
Shout out CrossFit, the workers.
Shout out CrossFit and their ops. If you need me off directly, you know where I am. Jacqueline Dahlstrom in second. Samantha Briggs at the impressive age of 40 or 41.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Coming through and getting 58 calories on the rower. It's just absolutely insane. Fair play to her. Gabby Magala, Turi Helgadottir, the quietest top performer in CrossFit, who just somehow makes the games. How many times do you think Turi Helgadottir has made it to the games?
The way you've said that, I think she's probably made it 4 or 5 times.
I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She made it to the game 7 times.
And yeah, that's crazy.
Absolutely insane. And she's not classed as one of the daughters. Absolutely insane. But anyway, Emma Tall came in 6th, Karen Freyover in 7th, Sarah Sigmund's daughter in 8th, Laurie Clement in 9th at 36, Matilda Garns in 10th, and then big shout out to Helena Collins out of Jolly Sailor, taking 11th worldwide in that workout. That is huge. Massive shout out to Sandy, who coaches her well, I think it's Gibson and Collins. They work together on the coaching, but yeah, absolutely insane score for her. That's a really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to, would you not argue Laura and Gabby had an advantage because they had to do it twice?
I think we don't really have a huge amount of visibility of, and I think we'll add some context here. It's very difficult to know how seriously people are taking this open. How many people are doing this work? How many people are just doing it as one and done?
Well, I know a few people who are redoing it.
It could be everyone. I foolishly did not redo it. I should have redone it in an effort to try and get one room muscle up because somebody did it Monday morning and got one room muscle up ahead of me, and I was absolutely thrilled with him. So well done.
Well, from experience in my gym, my training partners redid it, and I'm not going to name who was who, but one got one extra rep and one got exactly the same score. And the one who got the exact same score got to the muscle-ups a minute faster than their first attempt. So let's say the morale was weird. I won't say low; it was just weird after that workout.
Quick side, like talking about redos. I think redoing it and getting exactly the same score should just be yeah, it's gutting in the moment that you didn't get an extra one, but equally you're just okay, I just proved that I was at my capacity.
Well, exactly. That's how we framed it. So when we spoke about it afterwards, we're like, well, this shows what your capacity is at the moment. For one of them, that just shows the one who got the extra rep. That's just your capacity at the moment. And then the other, they actually did it on the Saturday, their first attempt. So they had less rest between attempt 1 and attempt 2. Plus, I say this person's earlier in their development. So it's I think you just also you're not used to that volume. Even though it's 50 toes to bar, you're not used to doing 100 in the space of 48 hours in that intensity, plus the muscle ups. So yeah, that is true. So if you do redo again, that's the one big benefit of it is just it gives you peace of mind to either know, okay, I did it wrong the first time. I should have done it because I got a way better score. Or 2, if I get exactly the same, it just shows I attacked the first bit right, or it's just my capacity. It just is what it is. Yeah. So it's not always a bad thing.
One of the 2019 19.1, I did that workout Friday morning. We went down to Sid for the weekend. That was back when Sid was a sanctional, and that was the first workout that everyone did on the Friday. So I did that Friday morning. I had a manic weekend, obviously supporting Dak and watching everyone else go. I think I went to a gig Saturday night, so very much not recovered by the time that I came back around to do it on Monday. Did it, got exactly the same score again, and was just a little annoyed at that fact. But you look at it with the benefit of hindsight, you're you know what, I paced that as perfectly as I could. But yeah, to circle back around to the Women's European Leaderboard, it was a really strong start for the women across the board, absolutely dominating the top 20 worldwide. I think that the program always talk about Europe is coming. I think very much Europe is coming, and hopefully they can start to put on a showcase of we should have a lot more game spots than we're getting at the moment, and really excited to see how that starts to stack up for the rest of the season as well.
And then we'll move on to the UK women. So, I mean, the top 10, was saying before we got on, is literally pretty much the who's who of UK CrossFit. It's pretty much who we spoke about from last year. They should look out for, just in a row. Sam Briggs, Helena Collins, Taylor Howe, Amy Kringle, Lauren Stillwood, Sapphire Goddard, Madeline Harris, Jennifer Muir, Lois Smith, Evie Hollis. Literally that's it. Just all in line. I mean, I don't know what that says. Maybe that says the workout is a really good indicator of just general CrossFit ability.
At the elite level, I would certainly say it is. But the one thing I don't think we referenced on the podcast last week is that obviously Lucy Campbell was pulled out for the season with a wrist injury. So I'd expect that we'd see her very much near the top of that leaderboard. Probably giving Sam Briggs a run for her money. Maybe getting on that rower. I wouldn't be be surprised at all to see Lucy do that. So wishing all the best to her, and hope she's able to rest up, recover well, and have a really good off season. Hopefully we can be talking about her in 8 or 9 months' time at Dubai or Rogue or Wannapalooza.
Yep. I was gonna say R.I.P., but she's not actually dead. She's just recovering from injury.
Looking after herself to make sure she's got a longer term career. I think it's perfectly fine. But looking down the leaderboard, like you do see that there's a little bit of separation. You know, like everyone who got back onto that onto the rower, I think, separate themselves as having really strong ring muscle capacity. And within that sort of top 20, we see people who are very close to qualifying for semi-finals. I think that if you were to just utilise one workout as an indicator of who should be getting to semi-finals, I think 23.1 was a great indicator of that.
Mm. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the results are of this one, because then obviously like Boz, so for those who followed last season's games, he believed that best indicator of who would win the games was the person who would average best across shuttle to overhead A and B, which was obviously running and then into the heavy jerks. So you could argue, looking at the Open, if he believes that, it could be a similar thing for 23.2. Like if you asked him what of your tests you've written for this Open, you would indicate the fittest person. He might be like, well, if you see the best person who averages across part A and part B of week 2, they might be the. So it'll be interesting to just compare how it stacks up this week.
Who that was? Who got the highest average on sandbags over shuttle to overhead?
Well, I don't. Well, it's probably Tia, isn't it? I believe she came like second or something, or like second, something crazy. Second and first.
Yeah.
For the men, the best average. I think the best average across between the two might have been Ricky. I know Jeff Adder did quite well, obviously on the jerks, but I think average across. I think Ricky might have got the best average.
You would be wrong on that front.
Hate to see it.
Oh wait, no, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one.
Oh, please be right. So the comeback.
So Ricky got second and third.
Oh, so it's the best average.
One other person got second and third.
Who was that?
we need to bring you across.
So we got tied first. Oh, okay, fair enough.
Got third and second. Obviously, the Super League sent it and got first and 39.
Was there a tie break? Did Ricky get a tie break?
No, he didn't.
But yeah, fair. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, fairly accurate from.
Saxon ended up finishing 11th, so yeah, it worked out on one side of things, but not on the other side of things. But yeah, just something interesting to look at.
Yeah, so we shall see. But yeah, any other of the ladies? I mean, you just had obviously who we thought might win in the UK. We obviously had Taylor. Well, you said maybe Taylor Howe. Obviously, Amy Kringle. When we recorded it, we thought Lucy. So between those three, as the top dogs in UK, and they're third and fourth after week 1, so not too surprising. Jennifer Muir, top 10 with the 8th place.
Jennifer Muir in 8th, yeah. Mads lost Allwards out training out CrossFit Invictus. So yeah, absolutely doing really well there. I don't know whether she's going team out there or not, but that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling down to see if there's any surprises of like on the negative side. It doesn't look like it too much.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No, I think pretty much what we thought maybe for the women. Let's look at the men then. What were the men saying? Well, obviously.
Now that the scores have been adjusted.
Oh, where's number 1 gone? My guy, Dan Williams. What a story. From level 6 to best in the UK in the space of a year. Yeah. Leave it at that.
True on the long tail.
Unfortunately, it has meant I've now moved up from 69th to 68th, and 69 obviously is just, meme number. So I was just enjoying living that moment.
Oh dear. Right, moving on. So we actually had a three-way tie at the top in terms of number of reps for the men from the UK, all on 277. All three governed by their tiebreak time. So Oleg Lysenko rocked up and got to his tiebreak time was 7:31. That is fast. Wow. That is very fast. Compare that to Mr. Zach George with a tiebreak of 8:03. And just edging out Sam Parkin, who had a tiebreak of 8:04.
Wasn't Romans like 6:49 or six something like that? Something crazy.
Yeah. If you want to watch something crazy impressive, just go and watch. I think both Roman and Pat's videos are both out on YouTube. Roman's
they are.
On CrossFit Mayhem, Pat's on his own YouTube channel. Just go and watch. It's very interesting to see how differently they approach it.
But does Roman score actually count though? That's the question. Does it actually count?
We're 50 minutes into this podcast, Matthew. I don't think we can start to dive into that one.
Does it count? He had assistance on the rower monitor.
We're not doing this. It's 10:30 on a Thursday night, man.
Also, the question is, was Vellner actually using a PM5 monitor? It looked like a PM3. That rower machine looked ancient, and that cost him about 8 seconds at least.
Yeah.
My guy was pulling for his life and getting 0 cows.
I think what we've realised, if Vellner was sponsored by Concept 2, he definitely would have done that workout because he would have had an up-to-date rower machine. But yeah. Rounding out the top 10 for the men, Sam Robinson out of CrossFit Club La Santa in Tenerife, I believe it is. In 4th, David Sharunki in 5th, Reggie Fasser in 6th, Will Kane in 7th, Harry Lightfoot in 8th, Mitch Adams in 9th, and Andrew McCoy in 10th. A lot of 30-plus guys repping in the top 10.
Yeah.
Where are the young guns, Matthew Hosking? Where are you?
11th for Peters. Literally the next guy is a young gun. But yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Puts in there as well at 24, but you've got Zach, Sam, Sharunki, Will, Mitch, and Andrew McCoy, who are all 30 plus.
I'm scrolling on the leaderboard. Yeah, I think you've got Phil Peters for the young guys. You've got Phil Peters. And then in 27th, you have Tom Kingdon, who I believe is only like 21 or 22. Connor Pington in 29th.
Alex Millington's there as well on 13th at 25. Josh Ross-Harmon down in 18th. I think I watched their Invictus behind the scenes, and they seemed to be pretty casual about how they were treating it.
Yeah, I think looking at some of the names on the leaderboard, especially in that top 50, well, top 100, let's say, there's a few names who I would expect to have probably put up high scores. A few I've heard, obviously, took it maybe easy. Others, I think, actually paced it wrong. Like, look at Toby Buckland. I'm going to say only. He's still got 244, which is still very good, but I would have thought to see him a lot higher in that workout. Shout out Josh Burniston, our own giraffe from PFG. Big score, 245, 46. That must be a career high in open placements in the UK. Do you think? I know he did very well at the Ring Muscle Up Wall Ball Row one back in like 2020. I don't know if he finished high in the UK in that one, but 46th. Very nice.
But yeah, on the whole, I think, as we've already discussed, like, it's a similar sort of thing where this workout is still a fairly strong indicator of who's going to do well in terms of making it to semi-finals going forward if they elect to push to semi-finals. Because obviously we've got a couple of people going for team in that top 10. And on that note, we'll move across to the teams and have a look at the teams in Europe.
Gosh, look at you carrying this podcast. I completely forgot about them. I was about to log off.
I'll do teams on Sunday, it's alright. CrossFit Zarut's training call. Interesting. wasn't expecting them to go team. That is Fabian Benito, Anyola Kai, Ohana Moya, and but they've got a fairly big roster. So, because I know they've tried to make the games before as a team, but I'd imagine that both Fabian Benito and Anyola Kai are pushing to make it as individuals, and Ohana Moya as well. But she's probably just outside that bubble in terms of the top 10 making it. So if we look at it from a European standpoint, no shortcuts CrossFit in second. It's Andre Houde's team that he's put together this year. CrossFit Grillen from France, which includes Victor Hoffer. They went to semis last year on a team. CrossFit Senegalia out of Italy. CrossFit Trondheim from Norway. And then our top Northern Irish team is Cricket Lake CrossFit with Mickey Smith and Ellen Quaid contributing scores. Again, I think it's a similar thing where because you can have such a deep roster, you can utilize other people's scores to help make sure that you're qualifying for quarterfinals, team quarterfinals at that point. CrossFit Oz and Navy Blue coming in with 7th in a way to making their way back to try and three-peat their back-to-back podiums. Other notable ones, CrossFit Rotherham look to be putting a team together. So that's Dan Tyre, Saf Goddard, Georgia Davenport, and Moritz Neumann. Which Moritz Neumann was getting around last weekend. He was at Turf Games on Saturday, and then up to Rotherham to do the workout around then as well. And who else are we going to call out? Obviously, something I referenced before, the Norwegians. There's 4 Norwegian teams in the top 20, so fair play to them. Just coming out and absolutely smashing it. Yeah, I'm saying I'm a lot now, which I think tells me I'm tired. So that's the team competition.
Nice, good job, well done. Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. So again, this was literally just us, just off the cuff. We just literally jump on straight after the open announcement. We usually just make some rough notes and then just try, basically just talk a bit of rubbish for 45 to an hour. So please forgive, again, any stumblings through. We saw, that's what we do. That's our motto pretty much of this podcast. So actually, I don't apologise for it. You're welcome for the stumblings. That's what we do.
If you're enjoying these, and we haven't done this yet. If you are enjoying these, please throw a like on it. Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating in all the good places. That'd be much appreciated. And let us know in the comments what you want to hear us cover. It's a long season. We'll obviously be talking about the Open for the next couple of weeks, and then start to shift into quarterfinals. But then we want to start talking about, we referenced Sid's British Champs last week, and I think we'd be keen to sort of look at the UK and other European competitions and take it from there.
Yeah, cool. Right, we'll leave it there. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
See you next week.